All right, I'm going to, Anna Mackay is going to moderate this panel. Anna, thank you for helping out with this one. Anna, most of you have met already because she's talked already today, and she's going to introduce the kids who've come in, especially from around Australia, to talk on it. Anna, thank you for doing this. This is good of you. And there'll be time for some questions as well, I hope. I'll give you kids some mics to share. And we'll take it away. There we go. Is
there a second one?
I'll get a second one, yep.
I don't want to stand, I want to sit. Do you want to turn? You're just talking to me, not talking to me. But that's what we're here for. It's all about me. Great, so we're doing well for time, aren't we? How long have I got, Sam? Till... Oh, am I too close to you now? Oh. Is that because I'm too close to... No. Yeah, that's good. I was just it's too intense. All right, here we are. I'm Anna Mackay, those of you that perhaps heard me earlier, and I have the pleasure of chairing this panel. So the kids and I, we sort of, met a little bit virtually beforehand, but I'm sure I'm a bit nervous about this too. I'm not sure how you're feeling, but I think it's just a bit of a chat between us all and me trying to anticipate the questions that you guys might have for them, but trying to, hear it from their point of view. So I've got my little notes here, and I've got here that I'm going to start with birth stories. So thinking about your birth story, because we've all got one. Everybody here in this room has a birth story. Nobody remembers their birth story. You were all told it. And so you think about how that's been told to you and what details do you know about it. I'll just give you, my little example. I'm actually a twin as well. So he's got 4 twins up here on the stage. So I thought I might share that with you so that you know I've got something in common. I'll just give you, a quick example of mine so that you might tell yours in a similar sort of way. When my mum found out she was pregnant with twins, that was unexpected. She said it was the worst day of her life. She was also told she was, the ultrasounds back in the early 80s then were a bit new, and she was told, I think you're having 2 boys. I'm not. And so I surprised them. And so until, what was that? As we can see, thank you, I appreciate that. Good observation. And then on the day of birth, it was a planned caesarean, and so there's photos, of us coming out and photos of the clock, and then photos of my older siblings there and grandparents. And then a very important thing about twins, you may or may not know, is who was born first. So that's very important for twins. So maybe we should start with that. Telling us a little bit of your birth story as you know it. So, well, Ruby, should we start with you because you've got the microphone in your hand first. So do you want to tell me a little bit about what you've heard about your birth story? So I think it's on, so you sort of hold it up, just sort of there.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. I was born via surrogacy, and my dad Sam is blood related, and I have a sister called Zoe. He's not here. He's at a sleepover with some boys.
Controversial.
And
do you have photos from your birth?
yeah, I think we have a book thingy at home with a bunch of photos.
And who's older out of you two?
Zoe, by 6 hours.
Oh, 6, right, okay. So a unique situation in your surrogacy birth.
Yeah.
And so do you know if your birth was an easy birth or a hard birth? Have you heard those sorts of stories?
No.
No. And so, okay, there's a bit of a snapshot there of the stories that you've been told.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything else on that bit at the moment? We can come back to it. You might think of more as you hear what the others say. Okay, so Lexi, and you have a twin brother yourself, yep? And so what have you heard about your birth story?
I have heard about my birth story. Oh. I heard that my tummy mummy. Her name is Benita.
Benita, yep.
And she was married with a little boy, and she was very kind and sweet.
Cool. Do you know if it was like a caesarean birth or a...
I'm pretty sure it was a cesarean.
Yeah. And who's older out of you two?
Me.
Me. And by how much?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, yep. That's important. And do you know how the pregnancy went? Was it...
I'm not that sure how it went, but yeah.
That went? No, that's okay. And have you got photos of the birth, or is this a photo of her holding you as a baby, or is that her child?
This is her holding me and my twin brother Cameron.
Oh, you're both there.
Like, I think it was like our last day we were with her or something like that.
Yeah. So that was a few days after birth, or a few weeks, or some...
I'm
Not quite sure. So how do you think she's feeling, having both of you kiddos in her arms there?
She felt sad that we were leaving because she was with us and yeah.
Had become friends with your parents?
I would say that, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty, that's a bit of a snapshot, thank you. Mr. Elijah, what do you know about your birth story?
I was born via surrogacy. I'm not sure we have any pictures of our birth, or do we?
Not today with us, yeah.
Okay. I can tell you a bit about my surrogate.
Yeah, well, I reckon that was my next questions on the list. I was going to ask you about each of your surrogates. So you start off, you tell me about your surrogate. I'll tell you some of the questions. People might ask her name. Have you met her? Does she have kids? What language? Is she a tummy mummy or an auntie? And why she wanted to be a surrogate. So start me off. What's your surrogate's name?
Her name is Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
Her last name is Cundy.
Yes.
She is married to Simon Cundy, and she has 3 of her own daughters, a couple of other surrogate children, and a lot of fur babies.
And a lot of fur babies, did you say? Yes, a little white fluffy dog I think I've seen in a photo.
I think she has 2 dogs. One was given to her adult daughter.
Yeah.
The dog's name was Pickles.
Pickles. And
They have a new dog.
Yes.
The fluffy white one. Her name's Kiko.
Right.
She's a Japanese Spitz, and she's very cute and fluffy.
And you've met this dog?
Yes.
What city do you live in?
Brisbane.
And is Rachel's there too? Or
Yeah.
Yep. And so you still see Rachel and her family?
We try to see her every couple of months,
Yep.
always around her birthday and Christmas.
Sure, those special occasions. Do you know why she wanted to be a surrogate?
No.
No, fair enough. It's a tricky question to ask kids, isn't it? Maybe wanted to help and see your dads be dads? Maybe. Well, let's come back along the line now. Lexi. Oh, we'll just come back this way. That's okay, whichever. So, Lexi, remind us again, what's your surrogate's name?
Benita.
Benita. And does she have her own kids? You've mentioned one.
She has a little boy.
Yep. And have you met her since this photo, or since you were a baby?
No.
No. And do you keep in touch at all, or is that a bit tricky?
I think it's a little tricky too.
Yep.
And I don't think we've spoken to her really since I've been born.
Sure. But you know of your story, and you know how you came to be there. And I meant to ask Elijah this. Do you call Rachel like a tummy mummy, or just Auntie Rachel, or do you just call her Rachel?
We just call her Rachel.
She's Rachel, yep. And so, Lexi, in your household, if somebody ever said the name Benita, everybody knows who that is. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. So you don't have to use any other words to describe that.
No, not really.
Cool. Alrighty. And then Ruby, back to you. So tell us what you know about your surrogate.
I kind of forgot what her name was.
That's
I think it ended with an A. I'm pretty sure she has 2 or 3 kids of her own.
Yep.
And she lives in India, where I was born. And I don't really know much about her. I've only seen pictures of her in my birth book
Yep.
album thing. And
So tell me a bit more about that album that you've got at home. What's in it?
there are pictures of me in my house, me in the hospital,
Ah,
and my dad thinking it would be a cute photo to put me and Zoe in a bucket.
all the silly, funny things that parents do, hey?
Yeah.
Are there, and so there's some photos in there, I
Yeah.
think perhaps of your time in India, so before you came home to Australia. Yeah. Okay. Ruby, I've got one of the questions that, because we emailed around and prepped the kids up a little bit with some of the questions, so I'm not quite doing it in the same order. But Ruby, one I know that you're prepared to answer for me, I think, is that, so we've got one here that's born in Australia through what we call altruistic surrogacy, and then 2 born both in India through commercial surrogacy. I mean, this is all quite a while ago now, 10 or 11 years. And so in commercial surrogacy, the surrogate gets paid money to be a surrogate to carry you. And the question we had prepared for Ruby is, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's fair because the surrogate has to go through a lot to birth you, and I heard that giving birth is very, very, very painful.
I actually quite like giving birth. I think I'm quite good at it. But you're right. So, and that's why some surrogates do it, because we actually enjoyed being pregnant and giving birth. But you're right, it can be hard work. That's why it's called labour. It means hard work. And so you think that's fair for a woman to be paid to do that too. Lexi, did you want to add anything? You're nodding at that. Did you want to add anything to that? Or Elijah, come on. Yep, he's passed the mic back. You want to say something? So Elijah, your surrogate, Rachel, was not paid money to be your surrogate. Oh, that could be news for him right there and then. Checks in the mail, Rachel. So how surrogacy works here is that the parents pay for the costs of all of the appointments and things, but she didn't like earn pocket money or anything to do that. So
No.
what do you have a thought then about should surrogates in Australia then be paid to be surrogates?
Yeah, it is quite a painful process going through labour.
Yeah?
So I think they should be paid. It's fair.
Yeah.
They have to do it a lot of times if they want to be a surrogate. So I think it's fair. You just pay them.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. I wonder in the next 10 years if things will change in Australia. Some of us...
Maybe. We'll never know.
So I've been a surrogate too. I don't know if you... I had a little boy about 20 months ago for his 2 dads in Adelaide. Some surrogates don't want to be paid. So we're happy to do it for that, but maybe that's just we happen to live in a country where that's how the surrogacy works here. So maybe over time there might be compensation for surrogacy in Australia, but we'll see how that rolls out. Now let's talk a bit more about your story and things that happen at school and with teachers and some of the questions you might have been asked over time. So I guess we've all got a story about who's in our family. Thinking about when you were at school, I guess the adults here, when they were at school, if you grew up in a split household or if you had friends who, had different makeups of their family or were brought up by grandparents or something like that. So then, you think back to yourselves, how you would have had to tell people your story and what your family looked like. Have you guys got friends, for example, where the parents are divorced? Have you got friends at school where they live in, right? And so you think of how they've had to tell, I'm with mum this week and dad that week, that sort of thing. You guys would have had to have told your story quite a few times, I'd imagine, right? Tell me how you tell people your story.
I used to tell them that I didn't have a mum, but now she's more of a stepmom to me. Not the evil kind, thankfully.
Right? So when people say, oh, and where's your mum? What do you say to that?
She's more a stepmom to me. I used to say,
Do you say, I have two dads?
I'd say I have two dads who would pick me up from school.
Yes.
So, but I did have a friend whose parents were divorced, but then he started bullying me, so.
Okay, that's not so good, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so
He
then...
off the track, but...
Do kids ask you things like, who's the real dad?
No.
No?
I
Okay.
don't think I've ever heard that.
Right. And I wonder if they mean, things like, who's the one that makes us the lunch boxes, who does the drop-offs and the
That's-
pickups?
The one that makes the lunch boxes is Michael. It's also a combination of either one who drops me off at school, but I usually ride my bike.
Oh, cool.
Or someone else drops me off who's getting their apartment done and renovations this week.
Okay. Oh, Dad, we're learning their whole life story here. Dads, I hope you didn't mind.
All of it.
All of
Just
it.
get it all off.
All right, let's pass it down the line here. So, Lexi, so what sort of stories... we have a mum and a dad, so that's kind of a bit way the normal thing, isn't it? Do you ever get asked particular questions like that?
They normally always ask me if I'm Indian.
Oh, right. Because when they find out you were born from an Indian surrogate. And what do you say to them to that?
I don't think so.
Fair enough. I don't... Yeah, what would make you... Well, that's a bit tricky. What makes a person Indian then? Or any, nationality? And so I guess, yeah, so have you had any other questions like that about do people say, well, where's your real mum? Or do they say, where's your birth mum? Do they ask you those sorts of things?
They ask me if my tummy mummy is my real mum,
Right.
and I say no.
Yeah, because she's not. You know who mum is.
Yeah.
Yep. Mum's the one doing lunch boxes probably and drop... No, mum doesn't do... Hey, where's mum? Where's mum? Other things, household washing, changing bed sheets, something. Good kiddos. Oh, I should take notes. Okay. That's good. Just shopping and things. All right, thank you, Lexi. And Ruby then? Do people ask you in the past things like, oh, where's your mum? And you have to say, I've got two dads?
We said something. Me and my sister said something kind of weird.
Yes.
When they asked us where our mum was, we said that she was eaten by a tiger.
Savage. That's a good one. Eaten by a tiger. Is that because you like to see their reactions? I don't know. And do they go... And so then when you carry on with that story, what more do you tell them?
I don't tell them anything.
Okay, great. We stick with the tiger story. Okay. Has people ever asked you who's the real dad?
Yeah. It's Sam.
Right. What do you think they mean when they say real dad? How much do you kids know about, I guess, science and biology and those sorts of things? Do you know? What you said by blood before that, so Sam.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then is it Dad Phil? Is he the one doing lunch boxes and school pickups and drop-offs?
Yeah.
He's
I just get on my scooter to school.
Scooters now. Yep. Cool. Active kids. Yep. So I've been an egg donor myself and a surrogate, and so my kids are 6 and 8, and I guess the language we use in our house has been you need an egg and a seed to make a baby, and that lady's eggs weren't working and I had some spare ones, so I shared it with them. And then to be a surrogate, because I carried for two dads, you needed a lady's tummy to grow a baby. So I'm wondering, you guys each have a tummy mummy, so to speak, and your egg came from somewhere. So I'm curious about how much you know and of your story about that. So Ruby, what can you tell us about the egg part?
What I've heard was that we got Sam's sperm and then another woman's egg, and then there was the surrogate, and then he carried all the eggs and things, And
so the surrogate was not the same lady whose egg it was, is that? That they were two separate ladies?
yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. Now, what about you then, Lexi? Do you know about the egg and the seed that you came from?
I had my mum's egg and then my dad's seed, and then they put it into a petri dish.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
and then they shipped me off to India.
Oh, okay. And then that shipped off to India. You as the little speck, you and your brother. Yep. Yep. Okay. So that's your story. And then, Elijah, what do you know about the egg and the seed part for you and your brother?
I just know that we needed our dad's DNA and our mom's DNA to create my brother and I. I don't know much about it.
So whose egg is it?
Rachel's.
It is.
Rachel's.
It's Rachel's egg. Yes. Yeah. And you two boys are not identical twins.
No, but people get our names confused, which I hate.
I bet. But you're the taller one, so that's
Yes.
okay, right? Yep.
And I am also the stronger one. He's the smarter.
For now, you never know.
But now, that's up to you.
And do you know the seed, is that, I guess it's old questions out here today, isn't it? Do you know, is it from the same dad or separate dads? Beautiful, right. So, and there you go. So different ways in different families of different language. I thought I'd try that out with them and see if that stuck. And I guess you're hearing how it's talked about in different families, of to what levels and what language is used. So thank you for answering those bits, kids. What about days like Mother's and Father's Days? How you might often like do a card at school, right? When you've got two dads, what do you do on Mother's Day?
Every time in our school we do different Mother's Days and Father's Day things.
Is it Special Persons Day, is it called at school, or
Just
no?
Mother's and Father's Day.
Yep. And in the past, have you sometimes done a card for a grandmother, or do you remember what you might have done?
I think, this year I did some oil paintings, but my teacher was curious who I was going to give it to. I gave the oil paintings to my two dads, and I created a card for my surrogate. And also, there's a Mother's Day store at school, so I did that for my grandma and my other grandma.
Yep.
And I also got something for my surrogate, so
Cool.
that's what I do.
And then on Father's Day,
Then on Father's Day.
do you celebrate both dads on the same day? Or they
Yeah.
split it, or?
Yeah. I think we get them both presents from
Yeah.
the Father's Day store.
From the Father's Day store where they pay the money for you to buy them the present for themselves. Yes, I know how it works. Good. Okay. Well, thank you, Elijah. What about you then, Lexi? Is Mother's Day or Father's Day any different in your house then?
No.
No, because I guess you live with mum and dad, that sort of thing. So does it ever get brought up in conversation about, I don't know, at school?
No,
Do many people know? I guess they don't need to know all the time. They don't need to know your story about every little detail in your life, do they?
No.
No, because it doesn't affect your day-to-day life, this part of your story. No. Okay, so in some ways that was sort of an easiest one. Coming across to Ruby then, Mother's Day and Father's Day, tell me about that in your house.
In Mother's Day, Phil used to come, but we don't really bother anymore because I think it's just in K to, I think only K to 3 does it at our school, and from K to 3, Phil always came, and he always, I felt so different around the other kids having him around, but...
Was that a day where you could bring a special female person to your school, like your mother maybe,
Yeah.
but you had a dad? And so, yeah, tell me that you felt a bit different?
Yeah, but I got used to it after a month after I was born or something.
As in
And-
being at school over the years, people got to know that you had two dads. Is that what you meant? Yeah. Have there been other times then where there's been times that have been a bit awkward or you felt a bit uncomfortable or different?
Not really.
Not too much?
No.
That's good. What about you then, Lexi? Have you got a bit stories or something of times that have felt tricky? Or
No, not really.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Elijah?
No, not really, but there has been 2 kids, one in my soccer team who have 2 dads who are foster parents,
Yep.
and the other one moved to another school a couple of years back, and he had 2 mums.
Yep.
So
sort of similar in some
sort
ways.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing there's a lot of people in this audience are people hoping to be parents one day through surrogacy.
One day.
So I'm sure that you might, I'm anticipating, wonder, are the kids born from surrogacy, are they okay? Are they too stuffed up? As in, is it difficult for them? Am I creating a path for them that's going to be a hard road? Hopefully here's 3 examples here. It's fine. I hope. So they're most of the questions I have, but before we throw it out to them, have you guys got any extra things that you'd like to tell them about your story or funny stories or any of the things that you'd prepared in the questions? Elijah, anything else that springs to mind you want to share with us?
Not really.
Okay.
No,
All right.
I don't think.
Lexi then? Okay. All right. Ruby? Of all the things we'd sort of prepared and talked about?
No, not really.
Okay. All righty. There we go. Okay, so we've still got some time here, peoples. I think I've got through most of what I wanted to, and clearly they've said what they wanted. Any other questions that have sprung up? So, Sam, do you want to do the roving, or Heather? Oh, yeah. Who's faster? So now we'll share my mic, us guys up here. Over there. Oh, you stay there and I'll bring it to you.
I was just wondering, what's the best age to tell your kids about surrogacy or donor?
From birth.
When you think they're ready and when they start asking questions about it.
Do you remember how old that was, Elijah?
My dad told me when I was about 5 years old, so around about that age.
And what about you, Lexi and Ruby? Do you have a thought on that?
I reckon whenever they get curious, I ask my parents questions because I saw this picture in my room and I wondered who it was. Yeah. And I just think they should tell the story when the parents are ready and when the child starts asking questions.
I think a child should know how they were born as soon as they can understand that kind of stuff, and because it'll be kind of weird to be thinking that you had a life just the same as everyone else, and then one day you're just like, okay. And
So then if you were up here now at 10, 11 years old and we sat down and told you, by the way, this is your story and today was the day you found out, that'd be pretty full on. I might just add, my experience, a chance to, talk, that you think about the kids here who have got 2 dads. They haven't had a choice. They had to have told their children from birth, of their story. So I think all of the hetero couples here think of it the same way. And there's a lot of research out there and there's ways of helping tell your story to your children and having photos like this. So it's never a thing where you're stressed and, okay, today's the day we're going to sit down and tell them the story. Because you'll never be ready and they'll never be ready. You just have photos, have albums around of the journey that you went on as a team, and hopefully they're people you keep in contact with and they've become a part of your lives. So there's never a time where you have to tell them. The story has always been a part of it, would be my added advice I'm adding in today. Another question.
Thank you. Thanks, Anna, and thanks very much, all of you guys, for telling your story. You've done it really, really well. I guess my question's it's pretty similar to the first question is, did you always know you were born via surrogacy, or was there a time when it was kind of explained to you? I know, Lexi, you mentioned you just had that photo in the room, but do you remember growing up that there was like a time that it was explained to you, or did you just kind of always know?
So always know, or was there a time?
I've kind of known it as long as I can remember. It's not something that was hidden from me.
Yeah, basically the same. I don't really remember asking my parents, but like I've known for a couple of years now. Yeah.
I think that I knew when I got picked up at kindergarten, I saw that it wasn't usual to have two dads. So I started asking questions like, why don't other people have two dads? Then we just talked about it. And answered the questions that I had.
Yep. And so, yep. And I'm just adding on that so that you, at the kindergarten pickup, Elijah, that asking the questions, but then it wasn't at that point in time, it's like, okay, now we're going to go and meet Rachel, and I'll meet, you had always known Rachel up until that point, hadn't you? And so then it was just, oh, well, it was, and you start to connect the dots. Yep. Another question?
This is a question for Elijah and Ruby. Both of you have two dads each. Will and I were lucky enough to have Harrison arrive just before Christmas. So he's also got two dads. I was wondering if you have different names that you use to call Dad, or you just yell out Dad and see who turns up first.
I call Michael Dad and Jared Daddy.
I used to call Sam Papa, but I call him Sam now. But I still call Phil Daddy. Yeah.
Good question. I forgot that one off my list. That's a good one, because I'm sure that's a classic thing, you know, working out what names. Yep.
Yeah. My question to Elijah and Ruby, was there a point in time that you wish you had a mum?
Have you ever wished you'd had a mum?
Not really. Sometimes when I'm mad at them. Yeah, not really.
That's a good question, but sometimes. But it's good to travel from house to house to see your mom, and stay at home to see your dad. So I think it's good.
I'm not sure I quite got that.
Dang.
Do you mean? I'm not quite sure. So I don't. Well, and then Ruby. No, you're Ruby. Lexi. Now listening to these people that've got two dads, do you wish you had two dads now? Two dads and a mum, maybe. No. Yeah, careful. No. So do you think, having been born from surrogacy and the stories that you have, is that, you know, it's just your life, I suppose. It's just your story, and it's a positive story. Do you wish it was any different? No? I think we've got some resounding no's here. Elijah's doing it. Oh, there we go. A mic back. Elijah, have a mic.
I think that even if it was different, still I'd be happy. Like, at least I have parents.
Yeah, got two parents that love you very much. It's pretty cool. What about you then, Lexi? Same? In your household? Just the normal crazy households that they can be? Yep. And yours too, Ruby? Yeah. Yep. Okay, well. Oh, Elijah. We're going to have Elijah moderating panels in future. So
From now on.
when we go to Brisbane in a couple of years, we'll have him back. Okay, well, thank you. I hope for the intended parents listening, I hope that's put you more at ease if you've needed that. It's wonderful that surrogacy in Australia and overseas now has been, you know, going for these significant amounts of time, so the kids are old enough to then join us on these panels and we can hear from them. So I'm assuming we'll try and have a panel like this every year moving forward now. Oh, Elijah will be on it every year. We might mix it up a bit, Elijah. So thank you. And feel free to come up and keep asking us questions. So we'd like to thank the children here for their time.
So before you guys go, we're just going to get the kids to draw the raffle prizes. Heather has the thing, so Elijah, you're just there. You might draw the first prize for the raffle. Read out, tell us what the number is when you pull it out of the thing. This is for the $750 travel voucher from Bayview Travel. And tell us what it is.
That's a red ticket. Tell them that, but they're all red.
Red F, 7156.
Great. Okay, well done. Right, that's great. Okay, Lexi, you want to draw the second one?
So the next three.
Yeah, Heather, do you want to say it?
The next three, if it's something that's sort of not suitable to your situation, and you don't have anyone you can pass it on to, it's up to you if you want to sort of put it back in for a redraw. It's up to you, and then your ticket might be there for the next one. Okay. So do you want to draw this one for the Australian Doula College? Okay.
Red F45.
Oh! Okay, Ruby, you'll go.
So Ruby, do you want to do this one? So it's for DNA labs.
Oh, so this is so your kids can test who they're related to.
Red F18. Nick Nick.
Oh, great. Oh.
Do the last one, that's for some DNA testing, so I'll keep it.
Great.
You'll find out eventually.
Oh, you stand up.
Okay, there's the last prize, which is
Centre for Reproductive Medicine in the States for sperm or embryo freezing for a year of
sperm
storage.
freezing, right?
Sorry, for a year of storage, I should say.
Okay.
F42. Cherries.
Oh, Che, isn't it? I was talking to you before. There we go. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, everybody. That's you can stay around. There's drinks outside here now, so you can talk to some of these lovely people for the next hour or two. And there's a parent dinner on at 6:30, 6:45 around the corner. If you're going to that, remember that's close by. Pay for yourself. Okay.